Hello and welcome to Virtual Flight Diaries. This is another tutorial episode, going along the lines of my tutorial series on flying the Duke. This video is going to be about the EDM-760. This little gauge right here. So EDM stands for Engine Digital Monitoring Model 760. And this thing gives us a lot of information. So some basics. This is giving you three temperatures here. So the tops of these bar graphs is the exhaust temperature, EGT. And what that is measuring is the temperature of the exhaust exiting the cylinder after combustion. The next is the cylinder head temperature, and that's measuring the temperature of the cylinder while combustion is taking place. And that is indicated by these voided marks. So this black line is the cylinder head temperature. The numbers here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, are each cylinder. And it's currently cycling through each cylinder and giving us the EGT and cylinder head temperature for each individual cylinder on both left and right hand engines. So we're getting a very precise reading on what our engine's temperature is. The T is our turbocharger, our turbine intake temperature. And that's just pretty much telling us what temperature our turbocharger is at. We also have that over here, and it's looking like we're at 1400 degrees Fahrenheit for our turbine temperature. So you can use this or this, and it is a good cross-check system. So the different things that this tells us. So one of the big things is this used to lean out our engines, find our best performance, and we can also use it to find our best our range. We can really stretch our legs using this computer right here. And I'm going to show you how to do that. But first, let's look at the components. So there's two buttons here, and there's actually a third click spot. Now this click spot in the middle here, just underneath the model number, is a simulated click spot to simulate pushing both of these buttons. Because in Microsoft Flight Simulator, unfortunately, we can't push two buttons at the same time. So anything that this thing needs both buttons pressed for, this is the spot. So step. So what step can do is run us through each individual component, and it'll also stay on that. So we're looking at cylinder 1. This is the left side, this is the right side, and we got an EGT of 745 on the left hand side and 791 on the right hand side. So our engine's running just a little hotter on our right hand side, but still well within the ranges. It's probably best to tell you that they never exceed temperatures for each component. Never exceed 1650 degrees on the EGT, and you never exceed 450 degrees on the cylinder head temperature. Those are the never exceeds. So as long as you stay under those numbers, your engine, at least in the simulator, will run. So then we could cycle through each cylinder, one through 6, And some of the cylinders are running hotter and colder than the others. And you're, well, why is that? And that's because not all the cylinders are getting hit with the air. This engine, the TIO 541, is a air-cooled engine. So some of the cylinders aren't getting the direct hit of the cold air coming through the engine. So it's going to run a little hotter. But this gauge right here is showing us that we are well within our parameters for a healthy engine. And then we can look at our turbine temperature. So our turbine is currently 768 degrees Celsius and 766 degrees Celsius. And by the way, this is all in Celsius. You can switch it to Fahrenheit, but I actually only know how to set this up in Celsius. And the more I've been flying in Flight Simulator, flying Airbus and other European aircraft, I kind of learned the metric system, even though the United States isn't there. It should be, though. Metric system's so nice. This number here is actually our, I want to say, it's either oil temperature in Celsius or, yeah, I think it's oil temperature in Celsius. Yeah, because this is in Fahrenheit. So that kind of makes sense. So this is our turbine intake temperature, and this is our oil temperature. There's other information. So this is our oil pressure. This is an engine monitoring system. So there's everything here. So you can do our oil pressure. This is used on descent for monitoring how cold the engine's getting, and to prevent that shock cooling of the engine where you crack a cylinder. It is recommended by Lycoming that you keep this number above -60 in the descent. If you follow my tutorial video, I think it was episode 3, cover descent, I show you how to stage cool your engine. And if you stage cool your engine, you will almost guaranteed keep these within parameters. This is your battery. Get your battery voltage. We also can look that up down here, so it's a good backup system. And this is the outside air temperature. I like this because this gauge is hard to read. So when you're trying to figure out, true airspeed and other things like ISA, this gauge, this number right here comes in handy. This is the difference between the hottest and coldest cylinder. So we have a 32 Celsius degree difference in EGT between our hottest cylinder and our coldest cylinder on the left-hand side, and a 30-degree difference on the right-hand side. That's what that is. So it's just letting us know how far apart the hottest and coldest cylinders are. This is giving us our gallons per hour per engine. This is how much fuel we've used. This is how much fuel we have remaining in the tank. And this is our endurance. So we can do some fuel planning here if we know how long it's going to take us to get to our destination. So this is our total gallons used. So we used 22 gallons on the left-hand side and 22 gallons on the right-hand side, so it's around 44 gallons total used from the tanks just to climb up to 24,000 feet. This is how much fuel is required to our destination, and this is how much fuel we'll have in reserve once we reach our destination. That's at the current settings, which are just at basic cruise settings at 65% power. I did not lean yet. Still running on the turbocharger at 24,000 feet. This is miles per gallon. We're going 6.3 nautical miles per gallon of gas used. And then this is our how many miles to the end. It goes 9999 when it's over 1,000. And this is the monitoring of our horsepower per engine. So currently at our current setting, each engine is putting out X amount of horsepower. So 198, 194. And then we start over. So you want to go back to cycling. It's simple. You just hit this button and then this button and it'll start cycling through. This switch up here, which is usually actually down here, but they decided to put it up here, we can tell the computer to just cycle through the temperature readings, and we won't have any of the fuel readings. Or we could tell it to just do fuel. So we still get this for our temperature, but these numbers down here are just going to monitor our fuel. Or we can go back to all, and it'll cycle through all of it. So to switch it to Fahrenheit, if you really wanted to do that, it's the both buttons press. So it's the center button. Press it just once, and it'll click it to Fahrenheit. Click it again, back to Celsius. So how do we use this to lean our engines? Okay, so first we're going to have to pre-lean the engine. So we're going to bring and you lean each engine individually because each engine is different, and you're going to find that the settings are different. So leaning them together, you're not going to get, it's going to be harder for you to get the proper setting. So each engine we do separate. So we just start leaning it back until it switches to temperature reading. It starts reading a rise in EGT. I'm just going to bring this one back a little bit. I'm going to keep leaning it out until it clues in on. Probably help if I actually put. So we're going to lean. So this tells us to lean rich of peak. Because Lycoming suggests that we always run rich of peak, meaning that the engines are running richer than they are leaner. So, like I said, you pre-lean. So after you brought them back a little bit, you see a little bit of an EGT rise. You then turn on the lean of peak. And then you just bring the one back until it says peak EGT. See, it's picked up on one cylinder getting hotter. Let me do that again. So I'm going to reset here. Lean fine, richer peak. Let's bring back the cylinders. Let's bring it back. See, it's starting to read just the temperature. And it's going to clue in on the hottest cylinder. And it looks like cylinder 4 is going to be our winner today. And then you stop. Or peaky GT. Actually, 29 degrees lean of peak. That's what that number is. Right there. Then we can bring this one back. Looks like cylinder 1's going to win this one. And then we're peak EGT. So what are we going to do now? So we're actually going, so if we were going to follow the engine manual for Lycoming for this engine, we're going to bring it 50 degrees rich of peak. So we're going to bring this back forward, and you'll see the numbers that go from positive to negative. That means we're starting to go rich. Negative numbers are temperature range rich of the peak EGT that we had. Just going to bring it forward, and we're going to go 50. That's the magic number. So you just bring it forward a little bit, let it settle. And we bring this one up. You see what I mean? Each engine's different. And that's our lean setting. Bring that back one. So now we're all leaned out for the cruise at our maximum horsepower. So we're going to get the best speed that we possibly can get. But you can look. So this trip to Florida from Pennsylvania, I need 762 nautical miles. So we're good, because we're going to have about an hour reserve when we get to Orlando. But what if we were going to Jamaica and I needed more miles? I don't know exactly how far Jamaica would be. I'm just using it as an example. So we might want to go lean of peak. Now, there is some serious controversy on whether the TIO 541s can run lean of peak. I did a test in this plane, and I ran lean of peak, 50 degrees lean of peak, for 2.5 hours, and I had no engine damage. And you're going to see, so our range is 1,100 nautical miles right now. We're burning almost 150 gallons per hour. So this is going to be a power trade-off. So this is our max horsepower right now that we can run at our leanest setting for rich of peak. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lean it out to 50 degrees lean of peak. So that number is going to turn positive. That means we're going on the other side of that peak. We're leaning out the engine. Now the EGT is going to run a little hotter, but you're going to see it's going to still be in the same, it's going to be in the safe zone. You're going to get some weird power settings because we're losing, gaining. It's going to think our engines are failing, but it's not. So we're just going to bring that back. Remember I said each engine's different. And you're seeing that you can't just line up the mixture settings. So this is our leanest we could possibly run the engine at. See how much fuel now we're burning? Probably bring that right one up just a little bit. So once it's setting, put the prop sync on. And look at our range now. We went from 1,000 nautical miles to we gained another 700 nautical miles. And we only lost 15 nautical miles of indicated airspeed. So we're going to have an extra 4 hours of fuel on board. I filled the tanks. We're going to have an extra 4 hours of fuel on board running lean of peak. And maybe 30 minutes longer to get there. But we can keep going. 1,700 miles, we could actually make it to Jamaica. Which is pretty cool. Now, it's recommended that in the real plane, that you don't run this because it's not set up for it. You'll probably scorch your valves and cause engine damage. But in the simulator, we can really stretch our legs. And having learned that the engines survive lean of peak, I'm actually thinking of doing something I never did before, taking this plane around the world. I've never flown around the world in a simulator before. So it's pretty cool. So anyway, that's how you lean out the engine. So the recommended power setting is 50 degrees rich of peak. So that would mean that these are negative numbers. And once you get that peak EGT, you push them forward to get that. And right now we're running 50 degrees lean of that peak all the way back here. And all that means is that there's now more air than fuel mixture. Where the other way there was more fuel than air mixture. So it's a matter of power versus fuel economy. And you can see our turbine went up a little bit, but still well within range. Our cylinder head temperature is still under that 1650 mark. Everything's still in the green. But we're running that much longer distance. So to get out of this mode, you just click step. And it'll go back to cycling through. And we can monitor that EGT, make sure it doesn't go too high. We can monitor our cylinders. Our cylinders are running a little hot. That's because we're lean. But we're still in the parameters. And that's how you use this gauge. And it combined with the fuel planning page on the GTN-750, both PMS and the TDS have it. You can calculate your fuel, knowing your distance required. So that's the EDM. It's a real simple gauge, but it tells us a lot of information. And the leaning process is really not that hard once you get those basics down. Just lean it back till you get to peak EGT, and then either forward or back, depending on how lean or how rich you want to be. All right. Thanks for watching. See ya.